All right, here with Dave Dominowski, track superstar. Good to have you on the channel, man.
Hello, happy to be here.
So, track racing. I am completely out of my element. I want to first talk about the bikes because this equipment fascinates the hell out of me. We are looking at the Team USA, the national team bike, right?
Yeah, no, they're funky bikes, very
Yeah,
specialized.
I want to hear about it because this thing is clearly built for speed. But how much different is it than a crit bike? Obviously, a lot different. We have one speed. First, let's talk about that dinner plate that you have underneath your crank. How many teeth is on the chainring there?
Yeah, we're on fixies, and when we're racing, we've got a 62-14 on the bike. So definitely a larger chain ring than you've normally got on the road.
What is that? I know you guys measure things in like gear inches, but what is that compared to like a 5010 or a 5311 that you normally find as the fastest
Uh,
gear on a road bike?
it's pretty similar to the fastest the gear that you've got. So like a 5411, I want to say is similar. You can just do the
Right.
division there, but
It's basically I'm just in my
it's
fastest
big.
gear on my road bike.
It's big. Yeah, when I do intervals on my road bike to recreate the standing start, I shift into my biggest gear.
Which is wild because you do standing starts, and we're going to talk about like what we're doing here in this beautiful indoor track in Southern California here in a second. But let's kind of wrap up the thoughts on the here on the equipment. Tires are inflated to ungodly amounts of pressure, right?
Actually, we have quenchers on. So we've got quenchers, so they're pumped up to 110. So back to pretty normal pressures. They're also getting wider. So kind of following a similar trend as what the road's doing. And yeah, like you're seeing up to 25 mil tires on the track now.
So still pretty narrow. That's interesting. Everything is getting wider, softer, and lower
It
pressure. Like it's kind of interesting. Like his rolling resistance, I guess, applies on the track too.
Yeah, and that's definitely, everybody on the road is running tubeless with much lower pressures, and on the track it's still a mix. So it's not as obvious of a difference. And you definitely still have really fast bikes out there that are running tubulars that are pumped up to 200 psi. The wheels that we have, these zip wheels, they are built for clinchers, and so we're using clinchers and we're pumping those up to the max that the wheel can hold, which is 115.
Right. And then so then the other things on the bike are clearly built for like two discs. You have a bike that gives zero Fs about weight. It's just about aerodynamics, right? I mean, it's a
Aero
carbon
and
bike, so
and
it's still
stiff.
light.
Aero and stiff, right? We're riding on an indoor track, so this thing can't handle bumps because it doesn't need to, and all of the power is just going to the wheels. So really stiff. And then for the aero component, when you're looking at it from the front, this bike has been designed with the narrow ideology. So it's just getting everything as narrow as possible. So the front wheel is proprietary, super thin. It's just as wide as the tire. The front fork can only fit that wheel. It's super narrow. And then just looking at it from the front, the bike just kind of disappears.
And then what about like your clips for your pedals? Are you bolted in too? Like I'm sorry, are you strapped in so you don't come unclipped?
For team pursuit, where most people are just using normal Shimano SPD pedals like on the road. And if I'm doing a really explosive start for something like the kilo, where I'm going to go absolutely all out of the gate, then I will use straps. And so then it's just something added to the pedal that is doing more than just strapping you down. It's actually, there's a little metal piece in place that makes it impossible for the pedal to unclip. So you clip in and then you apply this strap and it actually forces this metal bar up to the bottom of the pedal and you can't clip out anymore and you have to come to a stop and have somebody kind of help you get out of it afterwards. And then some people are running speed plays too because again aero is very important, so you wouldn't normally see a starter, somebody that's doing max power to the gate, you wouldn't see them running speed plays, but some people that are focused more on the back end when they need to be more worried about aerodynamics, they're yeah, some people are running speed plays.
I lied. I have another question. It's about like bearing efficiency and then chain. So like wax chain, yes or no?
Yes. Yeah. I think all the footage that we have, these were training efforts. So I don't think any of us were running wax chains. Uh,
But I'm talking about like when it's for
when
like
it's
a world
race day,
championship. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Everybody's running wax chains. There are track chains, which are wider and most people are actually now running 11 speed. And so all of our chain rings, cogs, and chains are 11 speed. They are waxed chains. Yeah, they've had this fancy treatment and they're waxed.
And then like
And then
I imagine like a really light, like not grease, but like a really light oil for your hub bearings and like your bottom bracket bearings. Like you
yeah,
don't need grease to keep out elements, right? You're in the track.
certainly not. And everything loose is fast. So we're running the chains as loose. Everything is as loose as you can run safely. So like if there's a tiny bit of play in your wheels, good. If there's a
Yeah.
tiny bit of play in your chain, you're setting that chain tension as loose as it can possibly go, where you're not worried about your chain coming off.
What about
And just getting
ceramic
as
bearings?
little. Yeah, everything is fully optimized. Wheel bearings, bottom bracket. You'll see videos of bottom brackets just spinning for days when we
Yeah,
take a
yeah.
chain off.
I love that. I love seeing those from track videos. Okay, we've nerded out on equipment long enough. You are doing these training efforts. Let's actually talk about what you're doing down here.
Yeah,
You are in LA for a team pursuit camp. And I'm going to ask you more about this. What are you doing down here? What are you preparing for? Who are the boys? But first, quick message from today's video sponsor. Did you know that last year alone, Americans lost $12.5 billion to online scams? With everything being connected online these days, apps, online, social media accounts, it's no surprise that this figure has increased year over year and is projected to be even higher in 2025 and beyond. Look, hackers and scammers are getting more sophisticated, so too should your online security, which is why I'm excited to introduce today's video sponsor, Reason Labs. Their online security extension helps in detecting and responding to online threats, such as breaches to your social security number, your credit card number, protecting your social media accounts. All of this happens 24/7 in the background to give you peace of mind while being so connected these days. And the good news is fans of this channel get a special 20% off discount code by clicking the link down in the description or using code NORCAL. Guys, it's just a few bucks a month to have that peace of mind. Or you can just try their 7-day free trial period, run a scan, see for yourself if it works, no skin off your back. So thanks again, Reason Labs, for sponsoring this video. Now back to the content.
yep. So this is a team pursuit camp. We've got quite a few of them throughout the year, and this is in preparation for world championships. So it's just a quick kind of week-long touch-up camp. We've got 5 of the 6 people that are going to world championships down here. It's the 5 of us that will be racing team pursuit at world championships. So that's 4 kilometers, 4 people working together to complete that 4 kilometers as fast as possible. So we're down there doing different efforts to kind of touch up on this and work on the technique. We did a bit of aero testing. We're just trying to get, keep touching up on it. So when we're at home, we're working on our physiology, but then you go to the track, you work on the technique, and you also get that really high end, that really explosive neurological stimulus.
Yeah, the thing that really fascinated me, you told me about, is like it's impossible to go out and do race pace 4K team pursuit efforts like several times per day because you'll just eventually slow down. So what you guys were doing is this split 4K where you do 2K and then pause and then 2K. That way you can continue doing these really high intensity, high speed efforts. And actually, because that's the purpose of this, right? Is like you're practicing with the team that's going to be competing on the world stage. And you want to be able to mock race day speed. So you do those in 2K chunks. That was fascinating to me because, turning at these speeds, we're going to show you guys the footage of the actual practice race they compete here in a second, is wild. And the G's you guys pull, I have a little notch, you'll see it in a second, that's going to show the amount of force that you guys are experiencing in these corners at these speeds. But
Cool. I'm curious. I'm curious to see what those numbers
we're going to
are.
dive in a second. I have a couple more questions just about like training outside of a team camp like this. Is it like endurance training is endurance training, right? You want like to turn the oxygen into fuel for your muscles, just like any other sport, even if it's a 4K effort. Is your training that much different from like crit racing? Because you are a crit racer, by the way. You guys have seen him in some of my videos. Valley of the Sun crit winner this year. So like Dave shows up and blows up the field when he decides he's on good form and is going to tear up a crit. How much different like is it when you're focusing for a world championship event like this?
I think the how similar it is surprising. I'm doing it's pretty similar. It's doing periodized stuff, so the off season looks really similar. Where it's just a ton of volume. As we start getting closer to races, that's where we start to really sharpen things up. For me, it's that 2 minute focus, and then also I'll be doing little things like on the endurance ride that I did this past Saturday throughout that 6 hour ride, I did six standing starts. And so that was just, hey, even though I'm doing volume, let's just not let the body forget that I need to be able to do, over 1,000 watts from a roll for 10 seconds and just keep, the body firing in that sense. But it's still pretty high volume. And even though I'm only racing for 2 minutes and 15 seconds, in the middle there's a very aerobic component that really controls how well I can perform for the
Right.
last few
So
seconds.
so you're still out there doing like pulling big weeks, right? You're still out there doing 4 or 5 hour rides. You're still doing really high volume stuff, which is wild to a lot of people I think new to the sport. I remember it was for me when it's like, yeah, you're a track sprinter, you're going out and doing track sprints all day. And that's not at all the way the training looks, you guys. Um, and then tell me one. We'll touch on nutrition real fast. Really, I just want to know about like let's just actually because this could be an hour long discussion. If you guys want that, let us know. But I just really want to know like what are you doing, if anything, special before a big event? You know, a national championship. That you've won, by the way, 3 times national championship, or like worlds that's coming up. Tell us what you do special before a big event.
Yeah, so I'd say the big thing, well, the basics are the same. So still 3 hours before you think you're going to be racing, you're eating your last big meal with a lot of carbs and not a lot of other stuff that's going to be harder to digest. Even though it's a short event, you just want your glycogen stores to be topped up. Where things differ is we are competing for such a short time. It is very anaerobic, and so pretty much everybody racing team pursuit is taking sodium bicarbonate. And so it's basic and you consume a lot of it, and then that is slowly absorbed into your bloodstream. So then you're acting as a buffer, as a pH buffer. And so then as you produce lactate, your blood doesn't get as acidic. And so then for those really short periods of time, you can just produce more lactate before your muscles stop working.
Ooh,
Uh,
how long does it last?
the max effect is in that kind of 5 minute range. And then once it can last. So we take that from 2 hours before the race to 1 hour before the race. So and it's a lot. So it's zero point 0.3 grams per kilogram. So it's kind of like a fistful of pills. And if you look around a velodrome 2 hours before a team pursuit, everybody's in the infield doing their warm-ups and stretching and popping a lot of pills. And it's just baking soda.
Right.
And so, yeah, you take all of this from 2 hours before to 1 hour before, and then I'll go through my whole trainer warm up, ready to go. And it can last. It kind of depends on the person. So there'll be a curve that your body follows, but yeah, generally you're trying to take it about 90 minutes out and spreading it out so that you just don't have too many GI issues and you're, you know, burping too much. But it's a big difference. And then we're also taking
Caffeine?
caffeine.
Yeah.
So a lot of caffeine for a little bit. I was messing with caffeine pills because it was so easy. And then
Yeah.
it was also, I'm taking all these bicarb pills so I can just take one or two caffeine pills. But that just I always felt jittery with it. So I'm normally if it's a race in the morning, I'm drinking coffee and then a Red Bull. Or if it's a race in the evening, it'll just be two Red Bulls.
So what is that like 150 milligrams or something? What's a Red Bull?
Nah, more. So I'm shooting for more like 300 milligrams total. And some people will uh, get a little aggressive and be more in the 600 range. But no, I'm going for something more normal in the
When
like
so
300 range.
you start having that about a half an hour before or a little bit longer?
About nine. I'll start that about 90 minutes before.
Oh, okay.
Caffeine uptake, you uptake it pretty quickly and then it fades pretty slowly. And then especially if it's an evening race, where I have an event the next day that I care about, then I'll definitely move that earlier. That's one thing about track is you're often racing in the evening. It's kind of a spectator sport. And so then, you might be racing a team pursuit at 8 p.m. So if you're racing the next morning, you care about, okay, I'm going to move the caffeine earlier so that, it might not be completely peaked for the event, but then I don't have a system full of caffeine at 11 p.m. when I'm trying to fall asleep.
Right. Okay. Bicarbs in crit races. I have to know. This is a personal question. Can I do that in a crit race? Do you do that in a crit race?
I don't do it in a crit.
I'm thinking of keeping a couple of pills in my pocket for like the last few laps of the crit. Come on.
So you have to be careful because it's not free energy. You do pay for it. So we use these for the race sim effort that we're going to go over. We did our full bicarb and caffeine protocol for it. And part of that is just so that when you go into a race, you're not surprised because your legs feel different. So when we do the warm up, when I always do the exact same warm up
Ooh,
before
tell us about
a
that.
race. It's pretty, I'd say it's pretty basic. So I hop on a trainer and I'm spinning for a few minutes, super
How
easy, and
long
then I
before
do
your
a.
race starts?
This starts 45 minutes before I'm racing. At this point, I'm done with all the caffeine stuff. I'm done with all the bicarb stuff. I've done my dynamic warm up off the bike. I've changed into my kit. Everything is pretty ready to go.
Dynamic warm up is just stretching.
Yeah, just like stretching and lunges and a little bit of core activation, some band work things. Just it's a kind of the shorter the event, the larger your warm up needs to be.
Okay, so then 45 minutes before you're actually on the bike,
Yep.
and tell us what that looks like. How long does that last, and what are the zones that you hit?
Yeah, so there's a 12 or 14-minute ramp. I just always start at 200 watts and I just go up by 40 watts every 2 minutes. Or I do that up to 440.
What's 440 though? Is that zone 4?
That's over. Yeah, that's over my threshold.
Okay.
Then back to 200 for a few minutes, and then I'll do 30 seconds at pull power. And so that's the power that I'm doing when I'm at the front of the race. And so then I'm trying to hit that between 650 and 700, just sitting right there for 30 seconds, and then back down to 200, flushing the legs out. And then when it feels like I'm completely recovered from that, I'll just shift into my biggest gear, and I'm doing two spin ups. I'll pretty much go to slow down to a coast and spin up, and I'm just hitting the highest power that I can there, and I'll spin up to 140 RPM. And when I'm spun out, I just stop. So that takes 6 seconds, and I'll do that twice, and then back down to 180 watts until feels like I've nothing left in my legs. Right, I'm feeling warm but not fatigued in the slightest, and then I'll hop off the back bike. The whole thing takes 25 minutes.
Okay, so from 45 minutes before until 20 minutes before, you're
Yep,
doing that routine,
yep.
and then in those remaining 20 minutes, or you're still moving your legs a little bit, yeah?
So then I'll hop off the bike normally, walk to the bathroom, and it's mostly just little tiny kind of race, just fidgeting with things before the final things that you need to do to get ready. So I'm going to the bathroom. You're putting your kit up. Your number's already pinned on, but you're making sure the number's good. You're putting your shoe covers on. You're making sure that your helmet's good to go. And then you also have to sit kind of right next in front of the start gate along the start finish straight. You're sitting there before when the team before you is racing. And so then you have to be sitting down in a separate area 5 minutes before you're
Oh, so it's like
racing.
it's
And
like
so
required staging.
kind of, and it's not as required it's really required for some events, but yeah, there's rules like you can't have your visor down, and it's kind of like they're making sure that the people that are listed are actually racing. And there are things like bike checks going on. When we're at a World Cup, the mechanics are taking care of everything. And so you can kind of just focus on yourself. But yeah, there is this whole process of, okay, we've got where the team's set up and all the bikes are and where you're warming up. But then you have to kind of migrate over to the staging area. And then you also have to then go from there up to the track. So the last 10 minutes before the event isn't really, oh, doing whatever you want. You kind of got to be ready to go, and you're going over to the staging area.
Right. Okay. It's interesting though because you're actually like there's quite a bit of time between the finish of your warm up and then the start of your race.
Yeah, so it's between 20 and 15 minutes. I pretty much always want to be off the bike 15 minutes before racing. And that's one of the reasons why the last part of my warm up isn't, oh, I'm sitting there doing endurance. I'm spinning at 180 or
Oh,
160
right.
watts, just like really flushing the legs so that I can go walk to the bathroom and then sit down for a few minutes and not feel like I've gotten stale at all.
Right. That's the worst feeling. Anyway,
Yeah.
this was supposed to be like 3 or 4 minute intro, but I learned a whole lot, and I kind of want to dive into some race footage now. Should we talk about the race simulation? Okay, so all this training and everything culminated in, like we said, a practice race. This is the team pursuit. You guys are about to take off. And this is obviously 360 footage on your bike, and you are lucky number one out of the starting gate.
So I'm P1 or the starter. My goal out of the gate is to get us up to speed pretty much as quickly as possible so that everybody can start drafting me as quickly as possible. So for the first 10 seconds, everybody's out of the saddle sprinting. But now we're up to all pretty much up to 40 miles an hour at this point, and they're sitting in my draft. And so now Grant, who's right behind me, he's sitting in my draft. He's getting a bit of recovery before he's going to have to start pedaling at the front. So we just finished our second lap coming through this corner, and then I'm about to swing up in this next corner to the back of the group.
And you made that look really easy. That's very difficult to do. And also, I don't know if you guys noticed the G's he was pulling on that exit. Like, there's a lot of lateral force on the bike. That's a weird feeling also. Like, I'm not skilled in track racing whatsoever, but I do know that feeling.
It's yeah, that's I mean that's why we're at this camp is to figure out how to ride all of this as efficiently as possible. Um, and you can so Grant just slotted in behind me and his power would have gone from, about below through 600s to upper 300s. So
And look at the
it's
margins here, guys. He's riding on this is the thing with track cycling. Is like you are like centimeters away from the guy in front of you, right?
yeah, you're trying to be as close as possible while still being smooth. So that's what makes a good team pursuit is being able to recover when you're not at the front and to be able to save energy and be ready to do another hard pull when you get to the front. And so that's all about being predictable so that the person behind you can follow you well, and then also riding on the person in front of you's wheel. So it's not just get as close as you can, but okay, how smooth can I be? How good of a wheel can I be for the person behind me?
And
Um,
and that's a big thing, and that's why we pull the data here just for a second. We can look at how jagged this looks. So this is no smoothing. We're used to looking at power data, this pink line, as a 3 second smooth line. Track class cyclists are different. They look at it as this 1 second, and you can see there is a lot of efficiency you guys can make up by making this line as smooth as possible, right?
100%. So yeah, that big those big spikes in the middle there, that's not good. That is a lot of wasted energy where it's, oh yeah, I got to recover for 2 seconds and then I had to sprint again for 2 seconds. So that pull at the end of the race would be it's how good that is depends on how smooth I've been for the minute before then.
Right. So we pop back over to the footage. Dave, you are moments away from taking the front again. And like you said, it's about saving energy. How much more do you have left? And you can tell the power's cranking back up because now you're eating the wind.
Yeah, so I just got to, recover for the last 75 seconds, and now I'm just dumping the tank. And right here, I'm getting out of there because I could feel my legs blowing up. And it's all about just maintaining speed for the team. So it's a lot better for me to get out of there and do a shorter pull, but not decelerate the team at all, than it is to, pull for another half lap, but have us slow down by 1 or 2 kilometers an hour.
So this is by design, guys, right? So this isn't like a dropped rider like in road cycling. This only 3 people need to finish to stop the clock, correct?
Yeah, we should have said that earlier. So I do not finish this race. I by design am only doing the first half of the race, and my whole goal is to get the group up to speed and to make it as easy as possible for everybody else for the first half. And then uh and then I'm out of there after my second pull, and the three others are going to continue on and finish the 4 kilometers.
And in this case, let's break down the power here. What did you do for your effort? How long was your effort? How much power did you make?
So it was 215, and I believe it was 570 watts. So it's normally around 800, 810 for that first pull, which is about 48 seconds until I swing up the first time. And then if we're riding really smooth, then that recovery power can be as low as 380 for the minute and 15 seconds that I'm fourth and third and second. If it's really rough and we're not riding smooth, but we're still going fast, then that recovery in quotes is can be more like 420, 430. And that's where then that second pull, if we have really good recovery and we're riding smooth, then that second pull can be a lap and a half long and be really strong. So they just
Yeah.
finished, like cross the finish line, they're done now. Um,
And
So if that, if we're,
this is all in a tucked position, you guys. I mean, Dave's modest. These are huge numbers for any, I think, any position on the bike, but especially particularly when you're all closed off, because it's speed is not just about power, it's power to CDA. Just like climbing is power to watts to kilogram is power to weight. In track cycling and time trialing, it's power to slipperiness, to how good you are at staying out of the wind, and it's inefficient when you get really low, right?
yeah, it's all about how airy you can be. So that is one thing that's different about our training is we're definitely doing sometimes my recovery day is on the rollers on this bike so that I'm just spending time at 150 watts but in a narrow position and doing some
Right.
fluid stuff, or it's going out and doing some tempo or sweet spot or threshold intervals in a time trial position, because you're using slightly different muscles and you just have to be, it doesn't matter how powerful you are on your road bike. This is what we're racing on.
Okay, so all that work, 2 minutes 15 seconds at 568 watts, and their teammates continuing on essentially that same speed. What did that result in? Like, what was the final time of your 4K team pursuit?
Yeah, so we did this in 3:58, which is the fastest that we've done in a training effort. So again, this is a race sim at the end of our camp, so without a taper. So we were really excited about that. And then it's also in LA. So that's a slow air density and slow track. So we were excited about that, and it actually beat our Pan Am champs qualifying time. So it was a good way to cap off the whole team pursuit camp.
Bodes well for Worlds. Where is it this year?
We're going to Denmark, just outside of Copenhagen.
And when's that? And how can we watch you? And where can we follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, so we're going to be in Copenhagen, in Denmark, just outside of Copenhagen. It's on October 16th is Team Pursuit qualifying and round one, and then finals are the next day, and then I'll be doing the kilo the day after that. There will be a live stream of it. I don't think that's been published yet, where what it'll be, and then I am at Dominomanoski on Instagram.
I'll link it in the description. Also, we'll figure out where that live stream is. I'll link that in the description. So go Team USA. We're really pulling for you guys. And thanks for sharing your little insight into track racing. I find it super fascinating. One day you guys are going to pull me out to the track. So thanks for coming on, Dave.
Thank you so much. This was a really fun footage to go over. It's fun bringing that with us to the track.